Hello everybody, welcome to my channel I Learn Daily. My name is Dr. Eamon and I'm an optometrist, and today I'm taking help of sketchfab.com in order to make this lecture more understandable and interesting. This video is related to the anatomy of the orbit. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to tell about different bones which make up the orbit and different fissures and foramen which are present inside the orbit. Also, the structures passing through these fissures and foramens, and the axis of the orbit and the eyeball. And in the end, we will learn about paranasal sinuses. What are paranasal sinuses? What is their significance? And what is their relationship with the orbit? Orbit is made up of 7 bones: zygomatic, maxillar, frontal, sphenoid, ethmoid, palatine, and lacrimal. And all these bones are joined together with immovable joints called sutures. These curvy lines, which you can see over here, are called sutures. These sutures consist of suture ligaments. There is only one bone present in the skull which attaches with a movable joint, and that is mandible, also known as the lower jaw. Orbit consists of 4 walls. This is the roof, this is the floor, this is the lateral wall, and this right here is the medial wall. And their anterior margins are called rims. This is the superior rim, lateral rim, inferior rim, and the medial rim, which is not quite distinct. The roof of the orbit is made up of 2 bones, frontal and lesser wing of the sphenoid. This is the frontal bone, which is making the majority of the roof of the orbit, and this right here is the lesser wing of the sphenoid, which is making the roof posteriorly. The lateral wall is made up of zygomatic bone and greater wing of the sphenoid. I will explain to you what is this greater and lesser wing of the sphenoid. This right here is the zygomatic bone, which is also known as the cheekbone. This hole is the zygomatic bone. This makes the lateral wall of the orbit. And this right here is the greater wing of the sphenoid. The floor of the orbit is made of zygomatic, maxilla, and a smaller portion of palatine bone. This right over here is the maxilla, which makes the upper jaw. This is the zygomatic bone, and this right over here is the smaller portion of the palatine bone. Palatine bone makes the upper palate of the mouth. It contributes very less in making the floor of the orbit. The medial wall is made up of 4 bones: maxilla, ethmoid, body of sphenoid, and lacrimal bone. This is the maxillary portion. This is the lacrimal bone. This is the orbital plate of the ethmoid. And this right over here is the body of the sphenoid. Now let's recall. The floor of the orbit is made of frontal bone and the small portion of lesser wing of the sphenoid makes the posterior portion. The lateral wall is made of zygomatic bone and greater wing of the sphenoid. The floor of the orbit is made of zygomatic, maxilla, and a smaller portion of palatine bone. The medial wall is made of maxilla, lacrimal bone, ethmoid, and a smaller portion of the body of the sphenoid. Now, this is a sphenoid bone which is present inside the skull. This is its superior view and this is its temporal view. This is the lesser wing of the sphenoid. This is the greater wing of the sphenoid. And this is the body of the sphenoid. Now, recall your knowledge. The medial wall was formed of the body of the sphenoid. The posterior roof of the orbit was formed of lesser wing of the sphenoid. And the lateral wall was formed of the greater wing of the sphenoid. Sphenoid bone is also known as the butterfly bone. As you can see that this makes a butterfly appearance. This is the ethmoid bone. Now if you look at its lateral margins, we will see these projections right here. These will make the medial walls of the orbits. This is the palatine bone. This is the upper hard palate of the mouth. The bone travels from here to right here, and this upper part will make the posterior floor of the orbit. Just this portion. Now let's talk about the openings into the orbit. The first one is optic canal. The second one is superior orbital fissure. And the third one is inferior orbital fissure. This fissure over here is the inferior orbital fissure. Lies here the optic canal right in the apex of the orbit, and this over here is the superior orbital fissure. Unluckily, this optic canal and superior orbital fissure is closed here in this 3 model, but I will make you learn from another diagram. Now again, come to the sphenoid bone. As I've mentioned before, this is the lesser wing of the sphenoid, this is the greater wing, and this is the body. Now this canal, which lies closer to the lesser wing and between lesser wing and the body, is the optic canal. This structure over here is responsible for the formation of the superior orbital fissure. Now, this is the diagram of superior inferior orbital fissures and optic canal. This orange ring right over here is the common tendinous ring, which is formed by 4 recti muscles. So there are 4 structures which are passing from the outside of this tendinous ring, and 4 structures which are present in the inside of this common tendinous ring in the superior orbital fissure. This right over here is the optic canal, and this right over here is the inferior orbital fissure. Now, there are 2 structures which are passing from the optic canal. One is the optic nerve, and the other is the ophthalmic artery. The ophthalmic artery also carries a sympathetic plexus with it. Now, The inferior orbital fissure consists of inferior division of ophthalmic vein. This right over here is the lacrimal nerve, frontal nerve, superior ophthalmic vein, and cranial nerve 4, which is trochlear nerve. Now, here we have abducent nerve. Abducent nerve also carries a sympathetic plexus derived from the cavernous sinus. This right here is the nasociliary nerve, and this is the superior division of third cranial nerve, which is oculomotor nerve, and this is the inferior division of oculomotor nerve. Now, you can correlate from this diagram. Right here we have our optic canal. This is a portion of superior orbital fissure, and right here lies the inferior orbital fissure. You can see there is an arc present right over here where our eyebrows lie. This is called the supraciliary arc. This right here, this notch over here, is called supraorbital notch. I forgot to tell you that lacrimal nerve, frontal nerve, and nasociliary nerve are the branches of fifth cranial nerve, which is trigeminal nerve. And few of its branches will pass from right over here. Now, this foramen over here is known as infraorbital foramen. From here will pass the infraorbital nerve, which is also a division of fifth cranial nerve, which is trigeminal nerve, of course. The frontal nerve will further divide into supraorbital and supratrochlear nerve. Supratrochlear nerve. These two branches will pass from this supraorbital notch. The supraorbital part will provide innervation to this part, and the supratrochlear part will provide innervation to this part. Now, we have a slight indentation over here at this point, right over here. This indentation right over here is for the pulley for the superior oblique muscle. Right at this point, we have this point over right here is called the Whitnell's tubercle. Let me write it for you. Whitnell's tubercle. From here pass 4 attachments. First is lateral check ligament. Second one is suspensory ligament. Third is lateral palpebral ligament, and fourth one is levator aponeurosis. These are 4 attachments which pass through this Whitnell's tubercle. As you can see in this 3D model, this right here is the superior rectus muscle. This is the lateral rectus muscle. This is the inferior oblique muscle, medial rectus muscle, and this right over here is the pulley, and this is the superior oblique muscle. We have our inferior rectus muscle right over here. Now, as I've mentioned before, this is the lesser wing of the sphenoid, and this is the optic canal from which the optic nerve is passing through. Now let's talk about the paranasal sinuses. What are they, where are they located, and what is their significance? So paranasal sinuses are present inside the bone. They have 4 major functions. They act as excellent voice resonator. They help to reduce the weight of the skull. They humidify the air which we inhale. And they act as buffer in case of any trauma. We have 4 paranasal sinuses. Frontal, maxillary, ethmoidal, and sphenoidal. These are frontal air sinuses. These are maxillary sinuses. These two are sphenoidal sinuses present inside the sphenoidal body. And these are ethmoidal sinuses. So the ethmoidal sinuses can be either 3 large air cells on each side, or they can be small 18 cells on each side. These sinuses are lined with mucoperiosteum, which produces mucus. Any infection or any pathogen which travels inside of these sinuses may cause sinusitis. Since these sinuses have a very close relation to the orbit, the infection can travel from these sinuses into the orbit. The most common infection which can be caused by these sinuses is orbital cellulitis. That's it for today. I hope you all liked my video, and I hope I have made everything clear. Sorry for my poor writing. And if you like my videos, please give it a like and subscribe. Thank you.